Independent learning is when you go into a classroom and you don't see the teacher, but you know the children are really actively engaged and committed to what they're doing.
Independent learning is when students are learning because they're being asked to by the member of staff, but also because they want to themselves.
For me, it's about giving the students the opportunity to take control of their learning and be guided rather than led.
It's the opposite, I suppose, of being a passive learner where, again, you're sitting back waiting to be told what to do. You know what to do. You want to do it.
The best sort of example of that is you're walking down the corridor and you can hear the children have already started work before you get there, and actually you walk in and they say, "Oh yes miss, well, we're getting on, sorry, I haven't got time to talk to you," which is great.
Who wouldn't want to do this? It's just common sense.
Fitzharris in Oxfordshire is looking to develop an independent learning programme. Deputy Head Julie Summerfield is keen to find out more about how it works.
Fitzharris is a school that's vastly improved its learning outcomes for young people. It is also a school that wants to take that next step to be outstanding. We've done an awful lot of work with improving the quality of teaching and the quality of learning, and we also mentor our students. And so we've put lots of systems in place that are having the desired effect, but we would like to move from that big step from good to outstanding. The challenges for staff are to consider new ways of working.
What was your best bit of your morning?
To think about whether they can accommodate it within the curriculum that we already offer, or whether we need to make more radical changes to our curriculum. Staff are very willing to take on new ideas. It's something that people are very passionate about developing already in the school. I think the key thing is, how do you do that?
In order to find out, Julie is visiting St John's School, Marlborough, for a chat with head teacher Patrick Hazelwood, a pioneer and keen advocate of independent learning.
Good morning.
Hello, Julie. Nice to see you.
Pleased to meet you.
How are you?
Thank you very much for having me here today.
That's a pleasure. Anytime.
I suppose my first question to you would be, why did you go along this line? Why did you develop the curriculum that you've got?
The main reason was because we felt that the national curriculum as it was constraining children's opportunities to learn. So that's where we started, and it was to convert the whole thing into a scenario where you could go into a classroom and the child would be in control, the children would be in control, almost the teacher is invisible. At best we would describe the teacher as facilitator, sometimes inspiration, sometimes almost not there at all.
Even like in a kind of coach role or a mentoring role?
Yes, I mean, it's all of those things, but what it isn't is the dictator at the front saying, thou shalt do this and thou wilt do that. It's very much about providing the environment in which the children can take control. And of course, the professional position is that that's guided control. I mean, so what we're trying to do at this stage is build up almost a momentum around this concept that you're actually teachers of children, not teachers of subjects.
That's the theory, but how does it work in practice?
I'm doing two. I'll do two then as well. Okay. I'm going to do your. You go first. You go first.
What I found out is that the okapis live in the Zaire rainforest, which I think is in Africa.
It might be that on your leaflet you actually don't just write about your animals, you may choose to write about Sophie's animal because she's inspired you to think, oh, this is really interesting.
Initially it was quite frightening because you hear these rumours about the fact you're going to have to rip up your lesson plans and that the children take over the lesson, and it sounds riotous. That's just complete nonsense, because actually what really happens is that they simply question and challenge not you as an individual or you as a teacher, they just challenge what we're doing in the classroom. And that's great. You know, the 30 minds may have come up with a much better way of doing something than I have, so I'm more than happy to go with the flow.
What I would like to do now, though, is to get into small groups and discuss these issues, OK?
You need to be really confident in your subject, and you need to be really excited by your subject and enthusiastic about it. because they can come back with all types of questions. You need to have answers to their questions.
It's going to cost a lot of money to home something. That's like how many machines is there?
I think if you go into the classroom assuming that you know best and your way is the best way, then I think you're doomed for failure. So you've got to have confidence in your abilities as a teacher, you've got to have confidence in your abilities as a learner, but you've also got to have the confidence to let go of things, you know, to not maintain an iron grip on the class.
That cone isn't really you in a way, if you get what I'm saying.
For the majority of students, it is very positive, for sure. I mean, you know, to be unleashed, as it were, or to have the shackles taken off of them in terms of their the curriculum and what we're supposed to teach them, and not only in terms of what they learn, but also how they learn it. You know, it's real freedom for them.
If we're studying a novel for English, we have to study text, but why not make it a novel on a boy who's got a heart defect, so that when they go into their next lesson, they're dissecting the heart, and then in their third lesson, they're running around in PE and taking their pulse rate, so that in maths, the lesson afterwards, they're plotting it on a bar graph. That they're just taking one piece of learning and building on it all the time, continually consolidating what they've learned, and again, taking ownership, rather than these compartmentalised lessons, which they may as well be taking place on different planets.
Inspired by her visit at St John's, Julie heads back to Fitzharris to reflect on what she has seen and to plan her next steps.
It's always very useful to visit other schools and you learn an awful lot from them. But I think there was a real buzz with the lessons that I observed in terms of students learning together, students really engaged with their learning, excited about their learning. And I think the most discernible observation was the fact that there was more student learning in the classroom on their own rather than teachers leading that learning. So there was that kind of like vision, I suppose, we'd all like to aim for, where the students were actually working harder than the teachers.
Comment s'appelle-t-il?
Comment s'appelle-t-il?
J'ai un frère qui s'appelle Paul.
J'ai un frère qui s'appelle Paul.
My name's Liam.
My name's Harry.
My name's Elliot.
I was thinking about saying Bob. I was going to say Bob, but...
We sit in rows of... Well, there's a rows of 4 in the middle, and then...
It's like rows of 2 on the sides.
This side, and then on the other side, it's rows of 2s as well.
We sit on our own and we want to talk to each other, which we sometimes do, and then we get told off. So, like, some people know some answers and the others don't, and then you might know an answer and you might want to talk and discuss about it, and I think that's a good way of learning. We do lots of listening when we're in the classroom.
To help with her plans for Fitzharris, Julie enlists the support of independent learning consultant Jackie Beer.
Morning, Jackie. Welcome to Fitzharris. It's lovely to see you.
I want to be able to move our school forward so that we get better outcomes for young people. I'm particularly passionate and interested to learn what your views are on in terms of developing our young people so they're more independent learners.
You know, so the challenge is involving every child, encouraging them to be collaborative and learn from each other and teach each other. So we get that coaching model right in the classroom as well. And also having that sort of a sense of getting children talking and learning more rather than the teacher talking.
Yes.
And I think that's huge. And if you think about it, in a school day, if children spent more time talking and learning and sharing and collaborating than the teachers spent leading, then actually they learn a tremendous amount from that. And I do think the one thing we've got to bear in mind is that it is much easier teaching stuff, you know, here's my scheme, here's my content, knowledge, stuff, than it is teaching ways of thinking. So we are actually setting ourselves a really, really tough challenge because teaching ways of thinking, teaching ways of being, teaching learning behaviours is actually quite a challenge, but you can do it, and it's much more. It's not sort of something that's just going to be a nice, even sort of. It's going to be like that.
Well, what do you think about the parent that is going to sort of say, well, you know, my child's got one teacher for all these subjects, But I'm concerned my student doesn't have a maths teacher.
Well, I think obviously maths and English, there are some subjects that need specialist teachers, and there's absolutely no doubt about that. And subjects are very, very important. What I have experienced and seen with my own eyes is that you can combine subjects. You can also measure progress in those subjects while also teaching in a project-based way. And in the sort of world we live in, who knows what jobs are going to be available in 10 years' time when these young people are trying to, they need to be flexible and adaptable, don't they?
But and also, aren't we sort of giving them the skills to be better parents themselves in terms of, being able to recognise that they have to provide the opportunities for future generations of children to be as independent as themselves.
Yes, whereas at the moment, the trouble is that some parents don't think, well, this is what I did when I was at school, but the world has changed.
So the visit to St John's was really good because it sort of came after that, and it sort of gives you a bit more inspiration, doesn't it? I firmly believe in sort of involving all people in your vision, because if you don't, then you can't always take what you would like to do forward. I'm keen to discuss with the leadership team, and also to discuss with heads of department and class teachers about what I've observed, about what we've already achieved together, and how we think we can take our practice further to bring about more independent learning. I feel in this school we're doing quite a lot of independent learning, but I also feel, as you know, that in order to move to outstanding, I think we need the children to be working harder than we are. The whole purpose of their curriculum was that they felt that it had become much more, it's too regimented. It was all based on targets, on achieving those targets. They didn't think it was very child-centred. So they were brave enough as such to walk away from it and say, well, let's create a curriculum that is more personalised. The content of the curriculum, I wouldn't have thought, and I've shown it to the leadership team and happy to share it with you, it's basically pretty much similar to what we're doing now. I think the key thing is that if you decided to do this and a team of teachers worked with a group, we're going to have to change the time commitment, because can you imagine, you would want to meet, wouldn't you? Yeah. But in our present framework, when would you meet? So we'd have to say, this is something we believe in. But I think to really get that buzz that I saw in that lesson with students really taking hold of their learning, then I think you have to start in Year 7.
If they're doing an activity in science and they do something similar in English and similar in languages and similar in RS, and they know that's an activity they enjoy, then it's not, they don't even think about, I'm doing French. No. It's just, I'm doing teamwork and I love working in a team, and isn't this a fun activity that we're doing? And I think it maybe would help, actually, in certain ways.
I think if we are determined about developing this independence, we're going to have some falls, we're going to have to take risks, but I've seen some of the rewards, and I think the rewards are worth the risk, personally.
We're working in a school where we are getting results, increasing every year. We're doing a reasonable job with the students, but the students are still not doing it themselves. We are doing the work for them. I think if there's anything at all which we can do which encourages students from Year 7 onwards to do it with independent learners, that's what we need.
It obviously makes sense to think about piloting a programme such as I've seen at St John's, so that you're actually developing those independent skills and those competencies that will make sure that people in the future as learners have those skills that employers want and also further education wants.
In Programme 2, we'll be looking at further ways in which independent learning can be brought into the classroom.